Hello, here we are, week 192. So, I've had the fish, but he missed it because I didn't hit record on the video. So, yeah, what have I done? I have a couple of things to talk about. Firstly, I've got a couple of leaks. So the first leak is on my salt bin in the corner over there. It's about 350, 400 litres. It's where I mix the salt outside and I pump it up and I circulate it there, bring it up the temperature. So when I do my water change or my auto water change, it dries on that bin. When I put it in, I drilled a bulkhead down the bottom. I put it where it was because I didn't want it on this sort of face because I thought it was very likely to get caught. So I kind of stuck it what I thought was out of the way and easy to plumb still. But because it's by the sink and sort of just at foot height, I kick it a lot. I hit it with salt buckets, I bash it. And I've obviously knocked it and it's got a really annoying slow drip on it. So it's one of those drips where it's just slow enough for me to ignore it. So I've got a salt bucket lid under it and it drips in there. And I'll just come in and tip a little bit of water down the sink each day. So I've got to drain the whole tank and faff around with the bulkhead if I want to fix it. I might be super lucky and just be able to nip it up and it'll stop it, but it's very rarely get that sort of luck. So it's just a ball ache, to be honest. I've got to drain it all down. It's really difficult to get to because the tank isn't just square, it's got these weird baffles in it which makes it difficult to get. So if you want to try and hold the inside part of the bulkhead while you're tightening it, otherwise the whole thing seems to twist. It's just a pain. So I've got some silicone tape wrapped around it which has slowed it to a very, very slow drip. It probably drips about 20-30 mil of water a day, and at the moment I'm just like, yeah, I'll live with that. And then, so when was it? I was near Friday. Yeah, I think it was Friday that I made that happen. So I was annoyed. I came out to do something else and I can't remember what it was. That happened, so I got the ump with that. Something else happened as well, but I can't remember. And I was just about to leave, as is normally the case. I walked down the stairs and the floor down there is all wet, and I'm like, what's that? Taste it, obviously, salt water. Where the hell's that coming from? And I look at my sump. So my sump, if you go from left to right, comes in, all the bulkheads come in, and it all runs through the filter fleece, and then it comes under a section of the sump where the fleece rolls. So the rolling part of the fleece on that sump is completely separate to the rest of the sump, so you can remove it out. So the sump kind of goes down and then up, and in that section it's like a drawer, you can pull it out and there's like a little lip when you push it up. So all this water is running down the lip, and I was going, well, the only way water can get in there is if the sump's split, because there's no other way for it to get there. So I went, oh my god, don't tell me the Royal Exclusive sump has like split a seam or something. So I pulled all the fleece stuff out, pulled the drawer out, wiped it all, and then I realised that on top of the sump, like resting on it, is my stepper motor for my calcium reactor. And what's actually happened is the filter, which I don't know if you can see, I think it's on a jug at the moment. I just put it there because I wasn't 100% sure it was going to be waterproof. So the filter, the inline filter, basically complete with clogs, and obviously the back pressure on the peristaltic pump had blown the peristaltic tube, and it was just peeing water all over the sump, and it was running down, running through the front of the sump and then onto the floor. So I mean, good thing is the sump was fine, but just pain in the arse. So fitted a new filter. Unfortunately, I've got a box full of them, and then I had to redo the little bit of peristaltic tubing on the Kamara pump. I just buy meter lengths of it, which I've got under there in a box. So I just pull the two little, I don't know what you call those things, nipples, I suppose, that connect the tubing. Cut a little bit of tubing, zip tied, and put it back on, it works fine. I was just like, oh. So, because of that and the water everywhere and the time it took, the calcium reactor, I also cleaned out my calc stirrer as well, which I always get it all over my feet, all over my clothes. It's a nightmare. My wife goes, so what's all this white stuff? I went, oh, it's calcium hydroxide. So because of all of that, the leaking, the calcium reactor is a pain, calc stirrer is a pain to keep cleaning out and filling up. I thought, right, I'm changing the way I'm dosing the tank. So I have gone over to dosing bicarb. So I've got, where is it? I think this is 2.5 kilos of sodium hydrogen carbonate, which is basically bicarbonate, from the company I get most of my chemicals from, APC Pure. 2.5 kilos, I think that is, and it was like £11 or something. Looks like I'm dosing about 315 mils a day at the moment, I think. So yeah, it means I can get rid of the calc stirrer, I can get rid of the calcium reactor, I can get rid of dosing the sodium hydroxide. So there's 3 things there, and I can dose that with one doser, and I'm done really. And then I will, because I top up my magnesium and calcium separately anyway. So I just think it's going to be a lot simpler, and I'm trying to think of ways that when I leave the tank for periods of time when I'm away, it makes it simpler for people that are looking after the tank. Because at the moment my calc stirrer, I have to top it up continually. So every 4 or 5 days I have to put another dish of calc in there. Normally I just lift the top and dump it in, but it's still dirty, it goes everywhere, and I don't want to keep asking other people to do it. So my sort of long-term thinking process is, if I can just set up, what I'll probably do is split that dose of bicarb into 2 heads on 2 separate doses, 2 containers, just in case one breaks, you know, for whatever reason. It means the tank doesn't get any alkalinity for the day. So if I split it between 2 eggs and 2 containers, I've got to be super unlucky for both of them to break and the tank not get anything. So that is where I'm at. I am dosing 90% of the bicarbonate in one big dose at between 7 and 7:30, and the lights come on at 7:30. So it's basically that kind of bolus method. I didn't have the balls basically to go full in and not dose anything and then just whack it all in, but I am transitioning. So at the moment the tank's feeling the pain because, as always, if you stop dosing calc and sodium hydroxide, the pH just plummets. So that's the reason I started dosing in the first place. So this tank will get down to 7.7 at night if I don't dose the calc and the sodium hydroxide. So I did a kind of bolus almost with the calcium hydroxide, because I used to run the calc 24/7 because it just works out better for me. And it was 100% the evaporation. And then obviously it's winter at the moment, the door's always shut. You know, last couple of days it's not got above 0 outside, so there's not as much airflow in there. So this is the worst time of year for pH anyway. But I was still hitting 8.2 regularly during the day with the calc and sodium hydroxide. So what I would do with the sodium hydroxide is I wouldn't dose it at all during the day, but at 5:30 to 7:30 in the morning, I would dose, I think, 35 mils of it, and it would keep the pH at 8 basically. So it would never drop below 8. So in the morning it would start at 8, and then throughout the course of the day it gets about 8.2, 8.25 maybe. And in the summer that would get to 8.3, 8.35, and it was fine. So now I've stopped dosing the calc, stopped dosing sodium hydroxide. I stopped it. Today is Monday. I did it Saturday. So basically all I did is I took the sodium hydroxide offline completely. I'm completely cleared out my calc stirrer. I'm still actually using it to dose my RO because I still got it on the peristaltic pump. So I haven't got an ATO, don't use an ATO. a pain in the arse, to be honest, so I don't use them. So I just use peristaltic pumps, put my RO in, and I just check my salinity a couple of times a week and adjust it accordingly. And it doesn't vary that much, really. So I think at the moment I'm doing something like 16 litres a day of RO. So it's just running through a clean calc reactor at the moment. It's just obviously just a clear cylinder of RO water going through it. And that's where I am. So the pH went from those sort of 8 to 8.3, and I stopped the calc, and it went to last night. I think last night, I'm hoping last night was going to be the worst. It was 7.75 as the lowest, and I can't be bothered to look. Before I came out, it was 7.92. So I don't think I'm going to hit 8 today with the pH, but I'm hoping over time it will trend upwards and then stabilise. I'm not obsessed with pH, to be honest. I just like it over 8. Over 8 do me. So if I can just get it to stay there consistently by dosing bicarb, get it to 8, maybe 8.1, you know, if it goes above that, then it's a bonus. But it's just proper simple to do. So that is where I am at the moment. Yeah, so a couple of leaks, change that. So eventually I'll be able to get rid of it. It frees up some space, and it also frees up some plug sockets, because I haven't got the calc stirrer plugged in, because it doesn't need to stir obviously. I can take the calcium reactor offline, which is the recirculating pump on the side. So that's a plug. There's 2 plugs. I can also not use the stepper motor, which is supplying that calcium reactor, so that's 3 plugs. And I've got a dosing head spare because I'm not dosing the sodium hydroxide, and also I haven't got to wear like a full chemical kit, face mask and gloves when I'm mixing up hydroxide. So we'll see how it goes. I'm not going to take these things off at the moment. So the calcium reactor is just running clean, basically. It's just running salt water through it, and like I said, the calc stirrer is just sitting there but with RO running through it. So if the dosing the bicarb doesn't work out in a month or 2 months or whatever, then I guess I'll go back to what I was doing. But I really hope it works, because at some point this year it is possible I've got to leave this tank for a month. That's the way it could go, and I just want it to be simple. And as you know from watching these videos, a month in this fish room without having something major going wrong is very unlikely, to be honest. So I just thought if I can make everything as simple as possible, then I've got a better chance than I have at the moment. So that is the main driving factor behind the reasons, just to try and simplify it, so that when I hand it over for someone else to look after the tank, I can go away for 4 weeks effectively with a big enough drum of chemicals, and they won't have to do anything. So the skimmers do drain straight down the drain line, so that won't need to be touched. If I get big enough containers, none of the dosing. So basically I just wanted to feed the tank, and that's it. Clean the glass, and that's acceptable. Asking people to top up stuff they get a bit paranoid about. So do I, to be honest. Right, so yeah, so that's it. So that's the leak. So obviously one of the leaks was just a peristaltic pump, which I fixed, and I will probably take offline at some point. The other thing I did is I did an ICP test, because I am about 2.5 months into running my own trace A elements, which are basically halogens, and I just wanted to check that there was nothing untoward. I've done one already. I think I did one after a month. Now I'm sort of 2.5 months in, and the results come back exactly the same as when I was dosing the tropic marine traces, to be honest. It's all the same. All the same things are low. So I don't really stress about it. I know they're going in the tank, so my main reason for checking it was I wanted to make sure there wasn't high, and I want to make sure there's no pollutants or anything weird going in there. So that was fine. So the weird thing is I also tested my RO water, which I do maybe once or twice a year, just because you get the kit and it gives you a vial to test your RO. Normally, I fire up my RO machine and I just put the vial there and just fill it with RO, cap it, and put it in the post. This time I took the RO from my actual bin, so under the comedy stairs that I used to get up into the room, behind there was a 200, I think it's 210 litre vat basically, which I fill up with the RO machine with. It's got a float valve on it, and I just use that to pull the RO water for the tank from. So I thought I'll sample it straight from the drum. So I've got a Versadose, which, as I said, I don't have an ATO, so I use a Versadose to do all the RO top off on the tank. And I just pulled the line off and held the vial under the pump, and it filled it up, and I put the line back on, sent it off. I was honestly not expecting anything weird, and it came back and it had very high boron, very high silicates, very high sulphur, and high calcium. And this is my phosphate, super high phosphate. I was just like, what? Yes, I've got no. I'm pretty sure, even though I haven't done it, that if I took the sample straight from my RO machine, it would have been fine, because the previous 4 years or whatever I've done that, it's been fine, because I took it from the bin. So I've got a P-muck pump sitting in that bin, which I haven't used since I went over to Cobalt, which must be 2.5 years ago. So I pulled that out just because I wanted. I mean, it looked fine, to be honest, but it did have. When I first pulled it out, I thought it was rust. I was like, what? That had a massive. When the power cord goes in, it had like this weird black splodge all around it, and I thought, oh my god, is that like rusty or something? But when I pulled it off, it was, I don't know how you describe it. It's like a really thick, gelatinous black or really deep green sort of substance. And I sort of squished it between the fingers. It felt like a sort of algae slime. I was going, would that grow in RO? I don't know. So anyway, the crux of that is today, after I've finished filming, I'm going to citric acid the crap out of that bin. I'm just going to pour loads of citric acid in it. I'm going to dump a pump in there, circulate it for an hour or so, and then drain it all out, flush it all completely. I've made a whole 1,000 litres of fresh RO in the ICB outside. IBC, yeah. And I'll just flush that tank through, and then I'll fill it up, and then hopefully I will send off another ICP and I'll check that. I might just scoop it out the bin. Because the other thing I thought, maybe it's something to do with the dosing line that goes through the Versa pump. It pulls through those silicon lines, goes through that bit of peristaltic tubing, so maybe there's something in there which is contaminating the sample. So I think I'll take it directly from the drum, maybe, and then maybe after I'll take another one through the Versa pump and see where that comes out. But yeah, I was just like, it's a very strange reading for an RO. So the tank looks fine. I didn't do the RO because I had an issue, well, not that I was aware of anyway. So yeah, it's worth cleaning out. Because to be fair, I don't really pay a lot of attention to an RO drum. I just fill them up, and that's it really. It's not like the salt bin. I clean them out. I use Tropic Marin salt, which makes it really clear actually. But I think, you know, the 4 years, I'm in year 4 now. Yeah, I think I've cleaned that twice, and even then it wasn't particularly dirty. So, but the RO I've never touched. It was under the stairs, the pain to get to. I never paid it any attention. So today I will give it a clean and see if it makes a difference. So I think that's about it. I can't think of anything else. A couple of leaks, dodgy RO readings. Oh, I've got a couple of corals actually. So they're not they're not mine. They're just having a holiday, I guess you call it. So I'm looking down there because that's the coral. I might film a bit later so you can see what I'm looking at. I've got a Duncan. I've got a candy cane. Those two are going to go back to Paul. This is Paul Fish Palace, because he's having some renovation or extension built on his house, and he's got to move some tanks around, so he had nowhere to put them. So more than happy to look after them, and then he'd take them back when he's ready. And he gave me a smooth skin. We think it's a smooth skin acro, which I'll put next to my other smooth skin acro. And Yeah, looks alright. And oh yeah, I know what else I did. Yeah, I know. Yeah, should have glossed over this one. So these lights are on actuators, as you know. They're gate openers. Basically, I can raise them up when I'm working on a tank. And I was doing something which I can't remember what, and I think actually I might have just put them down because sometimes they go a little bit ski whiff. You can get fancy and you can connect the two actuators together and govern the speed to make sure they both go at exactly the same speed. And when I put mine in, there's a slight difference, but if I take them all the way up, then the one that gets there first just sits there, and then the other one will come up and it'll level out. And then when they come down, they're generally pretty levelish. But sometimes they go a little bit ski whiff. Right, I think if I bang them or something, I don't know. So this one here was a bit wonky. I can't remember what way it was. So it's easier to bring them down because it's a shorter distance to straighten them out and then bring them back up and they're level. So because I'm going old and senile, I brought them back down to level them off and then left them there. So they were like right down at the tank level. So I don't know what I did with the par, but it would have gone up probably 200-300 right at the top. And as a consequence of that, my lovely barley shortcake, which I had growing on the ends, and it's growing from a little frag like that into sort of a colony, which is probably 6 inches across. It looks like I thought it'd bleach out. That would be my. If someone said to you, you put your lights, down like that, and you whack the par up, I would have thought it would just all bleach out the tips, but it's actually just gone very brown and it's got a lot of algae on it. So I guess the zoos until you've migrated downwards, run away from the light. So I don't know if it'll come back. There are little bits of life on it still, so I'm going to leave it. I'm a bit gutted actually because that was a really nice coral actually, and it was growing lovely. And what's bizarre, I mean, it's got strawberry shortcake right next to it. Didn't bat an eyelid, and it's got another couple of SBS. I mean, they are slightly lower, but only like 2 inches. They're like 50 mil below, and they all seem fine. So I don't know. And then the other thing, my not little, but my Millie that also looks a little bit peeved by the light stress that I obviously cause. But I'm sure they'll bounce back eventually. So I think that is about. Oh no, yeah, hold on. So I finally got. Eventually, let me chuck the rest of this food in while I'm here. Right, I'll chuck it over there. Oh, that wrasse. That wrasse. Oh, she is a nightmare. It soaks me. Right, what was I saying? Oh yes, so I finally got my Cobalt. So I've been trying to get this. So you can't, I don't know why, but you can't buy this from like APC Pure, Interlabs, Source Chemical, all the places I normally buy my chemicals from. They will not sell members of the public Cobalt. So I've picked this up. It has got lots of warnings on the backs, big signs. It says this material is considered toxic, hazardous to health and environment, handle with care, dispose of responsibly, keep out of the reach of children, wear PPE, clean work area with a damp sponge. Right. So cobalt carbonate, and this is from a pottery company because I think they use it for colouring. I don't know. I don't do pottering, but pottery, is that what we call it? I think it's like a glaze, is it? It obviously puts a colour of something on a pot, but anyway. So I've got 100 grams there. In 5 litres, I need 1/10 of 1 gram. So that will last me a lifetime probably. So I now have all of the chemical elements to make up the what is in the trace K, which is the couldn't stand to say it wrong. I think it's the cations. Pretty sure it's cations. So I will mix it up today like I did the other one into 5 litres of RO water, and then I will leave it because I want to see how it mixes up. I want to see if it mixes nice and clear. Then I'll leave it in here and I check to see if anything precipitates out. I also give it a sniff test because I want to make sure that nothing is organically breaking down in there. And I'll probably leave it for about a month, which is what I left the last one for. And then I will think about dosing it on the tank. If the tank's looking okay, because I'm doing this bicarb dosing, I might dose it in a month. If the tank is looking not good and it's still sulking about having rubbish pH levels or something, then I'll probably leave it for a couple of months, because I don't know how long this bicarby stuff takes to settle in on the tank, where it's had 2.5 years of dosing hydroxides on it. So I'm hoping at some point I will get a stable pH, and that's probably worth waiting for until I then test my chemicals. So I can just buy the K and keep dosing that. That's my thought process on that. Anyway, not really care, but that's where I'm going. Yeah, so I have spent approximately £100 on the K, and when I was walking the dog this morning, I was doing some very rough mental arithmetic, and I think that it will last me a bare minimum of 3 years. Yeah, so £33 a year for those, and same with the other one. So basically I'm going to get 66 quid, so £65 to dose a 300 litre tank with trace elements per year. So, you know, that's, if it works, which I'm hoping it will, yeah, that's another 500 quid saved or whatever. I think that's it. I can't think of anything else that I've broken or smashed up or done wrong or... No, I think that is it. So, I did come really close to buying a Goldflake Angel, just because there's one at my local LFS. It did look... I don't normally pay a massive amount of attention to angelfish, really, because I eat corals most of the time, so I don't really have them on my radar. But it wasn't particularly big, you know, like 3 inches or so. Absolute stunners, wild caught. It was a good price, and I did seriously come back and contemplate doing it. And then it's the same as the Nanardi bass that I was going to buy. I look at the fish. I've had no fish losses or anything really for probably into over 2 years or something. I can't actually think of a fish that I've lost. Just trying to think. I mean, the anchors have picked each other off over the 3 years they've been in here, but it seems to have stabilised now. I don't actually think I've lost a fish that, like, through disease or anything. I've lost, you know, I lost a wrasse because the 6 line basically killed it. I lost some anchors because they basically killed themselves or kill each other, don't they? But through actual disease or anything, I don't think I've lost a fish other than the nasos, the original naso thing that I put in, which when I dissected it, it was, even though it went through Prasy twice, it still had a gut full of worms. But I bought another one, that one's been fine. So I guess I'm just going through a long-winded way of saying that I'm happy, and I'm at that stage where I've got enough fish. I don't need, it's not like the tank's empty, is it? And because they're all doing so well, those fish, even though they're lovely, they're not lovely enough for me to risk upsetting the balance of the tank, really. So that's where I am. So I can't see anything going in here unless it's either going to be an amazing fish or it's going to be an amazing fish at a price where I'll be just stupid not to put it in. But they don't come up, do they? So that's where we are. Right, I think that is it. I know it's saying about my Duncan, right, that it's been in here and it always sulks and very rarely comes out. So it's been out for a while. And I realised it started to come back out when I started dosing my trace A's. So I don't know whether there's a slightly different trace component in the one I've mixed up to what it was getting before, or if it wasn't getting enough or too much or something. But because Paul bought me a Duncan as well, and when he went, oh, I got a Duncan, I was like, Duncans don't do well in this tank because that one's proper sulking. The one Paul's bought seems pretty happy, and then my one started to come out as well. So probably was some weird sort of trace issue. But, right, yeah, that's it. I can't think of anything else. I will see you in the next one.